Good morning, good evening, good night, wherever in the world you are. Hope you are well and having a good weekend, especially after yesterday's game. It is the morning after the night before, and in today's video, we are going to do some in-depth analysis about the team that played yesterday, the formation they used, and more so where they were on the pitch and where we can see improvements and where potentially we still may need some strengthening or some changes. Guys, before we get into it, as always, you know the drill. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit the notification bell. But let's get into it, guys. And I want to start by looking at the heat map of the players yesterday and where really everyone ended up being. And I think it's quite an interesting one to see straight away. I mean, the intensity of the heat map shows very clearly that Newcastle covered the whole pitch over there on the left-hand side. They had over 170 more touches than Forest. And you can see the intensity of the heat on the Forest map. Where they ended up most of the time was in and around their own goal. You can see the red circular shape, should we say, to the right-hand side of the penalty area. Just as I was saying, was in and around this area right here, there. So you can straight away you can see that Forest was sitting very, very deep, and that was sustained by the Newcastle pressure there. In fact, you can see this block here is the one that worries me, where if you look straight down the middle here, it's so gentle in terms of the amount of touches we had in the box, and it almost defines the shape of our team with the five at the back formation. You could almost draw it in here. So you'd have the three centre backs here roughly. You'd have Toffolo as the wing back area there. Then you'd have Williams over here on the right, and then what ended up happening was the two CMs ended up basically being two CDMs for the majority of the match, just leaving this area here completely free for Newcastle to dominate in. And that is where the match was lost, really, because there was no way we were pushing up high enough to get out of the box. And even then, if you are playing in this style where you're playing with the two wing backs who are designed to bomb forward like so, you can see again they didn't really penetrate into the final third of the pitch at all. At all. It's just clear to see when you view the heat map that Forest were sitting too deep. And it doesn't need a heat map to tell you guys how deep Forest was sitting. It was blatant and clear for everyone to see just from the naked eye. The worrying thing for me is obviously just in general this whole final third area where there were very limited touches and very limited chances. And you can see in some areas of this heat map, there was just no touches whatsoever. If we draw a shape, oh, look at that, it's nearly like a heart. So, and that's the middle of the goal there. So where we were able to get in was occasionally down the wing sides here, and a few times down the left side here with Toffolo. But overall, the heat map says it all. Contrast that to the Newcastle one. It's a complete block of colour in this area here, and it was just dominated by the likes of Bruno, who were able to sit where he wanted within the midfield, a lot of time unopposed and unchallenged, and just thread some lovely balls through in whichever direction he wanted. So, because we were defending so deep, and as I said in the match preview, this was my worry that if we were going to sit that deep, the only options we would have would be those balls coming in over the top from the channel, probably from Worrall, McKenna, or Niakhate. And what that does, that bypasses the midfield completely. So unless you had Johnson getting onto the ball or Surridge getting onto the ball here, the only way that works is if the two CMs would then bust the gut forward with then Jesse Lingard sitting here trying to pull the strings. And you can see that didn't happen. The fear to push out and lose that compactness was evident and clear throughout the whole match. So hopefully that gives you a little visual representation of what happened. And I just want to pick out now a few individual performances and have a look at the heat maps for them. I want to start by looking at our win backs. I've highlighted both Nico Williams and Toffolo as well, just to see really where they ended up spending most of their time on the pitch. And as you can see from here, there's a very intense area around here of where Toffolo spent the majority of his match. Occasionally he spent a bit of time up here. So it was roughly where you'd have expected him to play in terms of we were going to be on the back foot. But in general, there was nothing advancing him towards here, towards the byline, and it was the same with Nico Williams. In fact, Nico Williams ended up spreading himself out a bit more, with his intense areas being in that area of the pitch, and here obviously stuck against St. Maximum. So you can see there, though, although there was an effort to advance forward, it was never really in the final third. And nor did they really tuck in too much either side here. You can see if we look at this channel here, it's completely empty in terms of touches. Because what you'll see when we look at the defence is the likes of Worrall were more pulling out towards the right-hand side. And then you had McKenna as well coming around here somewhere. So that's what it looked like in terms of a visualization from the fullbacks. Let's go and have a look at the centre backs and see roughly where the positions were on the pitch for them as well. If we quickly have a look at Worrall, as I just mentioned a few seconds ago, he was almost playing like a right back. You can see he was covering this area. Now, I don't mind this too much in terms of the setup if it would have meant that Nico Williams was freed to go all the way up here and play. Worrall would do this quite a lot last season for Jed Spence, and it would work quite nicely. But his area of most concentration was in and around this area as well. He was pulled out a bit wider than you would want because obviously St. Maximum was the danger man and the threat there. And at times he did get adventurous and cover a bit higher up the map here. At no real time do you see him sitting in this area here, compacting in with the other two in a back three. So you didn't really get that set up too much there, where we'd have the back three covering this area across the middle here. But overall, positionally, and that's why I didn't think Worrall had such a bad game, because he did in essence know where the danger was. He went after the likes of St. Maximum. Although he did get turned a couple of times by him, he did play the right area for me, which was here, which in theory should have freed up Nico Williams to push forward. But what it had instead was the fact that they were really looking to double up against Alan St. Maximus in and around this area, and you can understand the logic behind that as well. But let's go and have a look at how the other two centre-backs ended up playing because of the way what this created. So this is Niakhate, and you can see there's definitely a natural tendency for him to come more to the left-hand side. He is more accustomed to playing here as a left centre-back. So with Worrall playing around here, as we saw in the previous heat map, it left... Actually, let's just clear the lines first. So with Worrall playing, if we just envisions it here, and Niakhate mainly covering this channel here, it gave some pockets for Bruno to start looking at balls in and around this area, and for the likes of Alan St. Maximus to use Bruno and then kind of come into these areas here, which he did a couple of times. I remember early in the first half, he turned Worrall inside out, cut into that channel, brought the ball across here for a setup on goal that side. So you can see I've got a slight concern about Niakhate playing in the middle because of his natural tendency. Even though you can see there's a little focal area here, the heat map is a lot darker, higher up the pitch, up here, and then kind of pulling just slightly towards the left. In essence, I'm happy with this being his main position if he was to continue at centre-back, as in centre-back, because this line is about as deep as I really want Forest to be playing if this formation is going to work. Here you can see there was a lot of... we had to drop back into this area because of the sustained pressure from the midfield. But it's something that needs looking at. Is he too naturally accustomed to playing here and working this channel in defence, and can he work as the main centre-back, or should we be putting McKenna into this area here and just switching them up. I think it's something that Coops needs to have a look at and have a little think about. But he did grow into the game. He started a little ropey, but I've got no worries about Niakhate. My only concern is what side do we put him on, left or centre? But let me know your thoughts on that. Now, if we have a look at McKenna's touch map, you can see that at times he was dragged back here into the middle, playing at the left-sided area. But I do like this heat map here for him. As the left centre back, this area was his predominant area of cover, which means he was trying to push out, but also he was covering Toffolo. So again, in essence, when you're not doubling up against a player, this should allow Toffolo the freedom against a less quality opposition, should we say, to have the confidence to move forward into that left channel and look to be bringing the balls into the box. However, that wasn't really what was happening, and as we saw from Toffolo's heat map, he was either here or stuck around here. Was there a bit of congestion in terms of where the defence were playing? Yes, but it did make us a bit tight, and we did frustrate Newcastle for large parts of the game. So just something to have a think about. But where I think the game was lost is in the midfield. And let's move on to the midfield and really talk about their positioning. Alright, so this is Colback's heat map, and predominantly he was playing over the left-hand side. But most of the time what you would find is that he was stuck in and around this area here. And in fact, at times, was going across here to triple up. I almost felt like at times him and O'Brien were on top of each other in their positioning and a bit too close. And there wasn't... You don't want mass separation between your two CMs, but at the same time, you don't want them on top of each other. The clear, evident thing here is that he never ever got past this area here in the pitch. He did not see the whites of the eyes of Pope once in the game. And that is worrying with the CMs, and we'll see O'Brien's as well, and it's not too dissimilar a picture. With the CMs, they, in fact, what I would like to see with the CM is the main position being in and around, if you're the left CM, this area here. With the heat map a bit faded around here, holding out in the box. But then I also want to see a patchy area around there as well. That for me would be the ideal position. Now, it's not going to be perfect. You're going to get the odd spatter here and there. It happens. You have to change shape and reposition during a game. I fully understand that. But if we just focus on this rectangular area here and the circular area here, there's just not much going on in that position at all. So for me, that's why we can't have these two sitting. If you're going to play two CMs, they have to be able to control this general area of the pitch. And that's what Bruno was able to do with Joelinton and Willock. And they found it easy. It was a 3-on-2 scenario for most of the game because Jesse Lingard honestly was just not there and not at the races. So it was already outnumbered. And you would have, I mean, I can bring here for you guys if you want to see quickly. If we have a look at, oh, press the wrong button. We quickly bring up, where is he? Where is he? Where is he? Where is he? Where is Bruno? There he is. Have a look at his heat map. That just compares and contrasts for you the difference between the work he did and the work Colback did. And it's night and day. And I'm not saying, you know, we clearly know there's a difference in quality between the two players. But look where his most intense work was done. Up and around the upper right corner, just outside the box. And if you look here in general, there's a huge, huge area covered within that central midfield. Let's compare that to the little splattering here and a little splattering here from Colback. Look at the differences in touches. 96 touches to against 36. We were the away team. We are a fresh team put together. But I just want to show you the level we have to step up to understand. And when you guys are hearing me talk about Colback and him not being good enough, this is the clearest evidence I can give you in terms of how to influence the game from the midfield and how to dictate the tempo and how a midfielder should be playing. Now, they are night and day in quality, I know, but we could go and have a look. Let's clear some lines here quickly for you. We can go. I can pick any one of the Newcastle three and show you the exact same thing. If we have a look at Willock 50 touches compared to Colback's 36. You can see they were targeting Colback's side, both him and Gramero. The intensity was in and around this area. And who was sitting there? It was Colback. Let's bring on Joe Linton as well. He covered the pitch with 73 touches. Again, look at where the heat map is. It's all in and around that middle area where you want a midfield with a bigger intensity, as he was covering the right hand side, their left hand side, sorry, over there. So that's why we lost the game, is because the dominance of those three in midfield was absolutely outstanding compared to our little splattering of touches in and around the midfield. Our midfield were dominated, and what happened was they moved back into here, into this area here, and we're just pushed back. Almost, we went into a back seven at times, you know, to just solidify up more. You're playing a back seven in the Premier League. There's no chance you're going to score a goal. And eventually, as we saw what happened yesterday, you will crack and concede a goal. The pressure can't be sustained for that long. So a little visual there of the midfield for you for and against Forest. All right, so let's carry on having a look at the CMs, and we'll have a look at O'Brien, who, again, got a little bit higher. Not much higher, but never, ever made it into this area in the box at all. And there's no intense colouring in this area of the map. And as you can see, most of his work was kind of done in and around this area here. Stark contrast to if we bring up, so his counter opposition here would have been Joe Linton. I think we just had him on there anyway. But you can see Joe Linton had nearly close to double the touches that O'Brien did and worked himself a lot higher on the pitch as well. So it's clear to see. It's clear to see without needing to spend much more time just how much more dominant Newcastle United were in the midfield, and that's where it was won and lost. And if we bring up Jesse Lingard so we can have a look at his heat map. Oh, where is our boy Jesse? There he is. Very, very scattered. It almost feels like he didn't know where exactly he should be. Now, he was playing in the cam role, so you'd expect a lot of his touches to be in and around this area here. As you can see from the heat map, not much at all. What he ended up doing was drifting left most of the time to try and pick the ball up, and coming deep at times to help out with defending, and sitting here in the middle because he had to, because the Newcastle 3 were almost playing that high up there with the defensive line sitting a bit behind them there. So to find some pockets of spaces, he had to get in between the centre back and Trippier here, and he had a little area here where he got some pockets of spaces as well. But outside of that, he wasn't very influential. 39 touches, not a great outing by Jesse at all. He had his one chance from here where he shot a cross goal into this space here, but it got blocked by Shah. In my opinion, if had he gone near post, he would have troubled Pope a lot more. But overall, Jesse Lingard looked a little lost and a little off the pace for me in the game yesterday, but he has to start if he's going to play the cam role operating here. Potentially what we may have to do is look at an alternative formation. You may have to find yourself going to a 4 at the back here with, say, Nico Williams, Niakhate, McKenna, and Toffolo. And then putting a 3 in midfield, be it, I would say, I don't know, O'Brien and Mangala there. I would then want a new cam here. And I would put Lingard's over here, the 11, maybe Johnson out here, and then an Awoniyi there. That's one alternative we could do. The other one would be to play a 4-2-3-1. Not too dissimilar, where you'd bring Johnson back a little bit and Lingard back a little bit. That could probably work, because what that will do, that will give us 5 bodies here in midfield rather than these two dropping into this area here. And by the way, we played this formation again with Houghton, and I know we hated it, but we had different bodies in this team. This is a formation that's quite popular within the Premier League. So it's worth having a look at. I'm not saying hit the panic button and change everything now. What I'm saying is have a plan B during the game. If you feel that the back three is being sucked into a back 5, then you do need to have an alternative plan to push us up the pitch. We have to score goals to win matches. It is that simple. So we need to be careful with what we're doing there. But that's my thoughts there on Jesse Lingard. Hope it makes sense. Let's move on into the attack. Johnson's heat map is a little harder to derive because obviously towards the end of the match he switched over to the L-dub position, which makes it look a lot more scattered, and had someone not seen the match, they may not have understood exactly what's happened here. So just a bit of food for thought there for you. But overall, he only had 20 touches in the game, and he was operating as wide as he could. He came back to do a bit of defending, had a couple of runs in here, but it wasn't a great game for Johnson. It really wasn't, and I didn't find him. Where do I want him? Normally in and around this pocket area here, where you've got the overlaps coming from behind him from Nico Williams, and then two options potentially here from Lingard and here from one of the CMs. That just wasn't happening. The disconnect in the midfield and the attack is so apparent at the moment, and it needs some serious work on the training ground because they're all disjointed. If you overlap his heat map with Jesse Lingard, now it will be the same color, so you're going to kind of have to remember how it looked. You can see there that they hardly crossed paths at all. I'll kind of flash it a little. There's a little area over here on the right hand side where they were linking up. This is not in a dangerous area. You know, this isn't going to impact anything or create something on goal. And with Jesse Lingard most of the time being here and Johnson working this area here, that's a big gap. That's a big gap between the two of them, between your Cam and one of your strikers who's playing as a central striker. So it's a little worrying. It's a little worrying to say the least, but I'm sure in Cooper we trust, as we always say, and we'll work towards it. If we bring on Surridge, his darkest area of the heat map was in our own half. This worries me a lot. When your striker is playing in the position of your left wing back, it's not a good sign. It's not a good sign. He had a couple of runs here. He could have got through on goal at one stage here with I think it was McKenna who actually fed him the ball, but he got blocked off by one of the solids. I can't remember which defender it was. I think it might have been Byrne, who just dealt with him very, very easily. Outside of that, he had two clear chances. One a header here where he headed it into the ground and then table tennis served it over the bar. And then he had another header, which was basically a back pass to the keeper. But forgetting all the chances, we're not here to discuss the chances. It's more the position we're looking at. For your striker to have spent most of his time in and around this area is a little worrying. It really is. And then if we just bring on Awoniyi, who had a cameo appearance, shall we say, at best. And let's just bring him on here. He got 8 touches throughout the whole match. And he spent... This is again too scattered. When we changed the formation, it was Mighton there, Johnson here, and I wanted Awoniyi here. Look where he ended up being. Here, 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 and here. Now here it was a bit of a chest that he mishandled that took it out wide towards Bruno Guimaraes. But it's not right, is it? When you kind of get to see the heat map and the breakdown of where the players were standing and performing, I'm starting to worry about the organisation of the midfield and the attack at the moment, and something needs to be done about it, and we need to see it be fixed on the training ground. So I hope that does make sense. And very quickly, just in contrast, if I show you where Wilson's positioning was, most of the time edge of the D, where you'd want a striker working a bit of a channel. And I don't rate him as one of the best strikers in the Premier League. And then look at St. Maximum. That's where you want to see your left winger. Absolutely red hot in terms of where the position was, right here, creating the most damage and the most danger. I would also say that Miguel, I didn't think had the best game, or should I say he was the weakest out of their front three for me during that match. And if we have a look at where his heat map was, it was a bit scattered as well, but he had about 54 touches. But again, he at the very least, he was playing in and around the area that Eddie Howe would have told him to be working, which was here. But the bottom line for me, guys, and I'll leave you with this scary image as we round up the video. So let me just show you. This is their midfield versus our midfield. I think that paints the picture and says everything. Let me know your thoughts on that, guys. I hope you've enjoyed this analysis. I know I've gone a bit in depth, but I thought it'd be good to give you guys a breakdown. Please don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel if you are new here, and we'll catch you on the next video. Come on, you Reds, we can do this.